Yo, what's up, YouTube? This is part 2 of our running backs preview. We're going to give you some awesome fun facts, and hopefully we are all good from a technical standpoint. I know we had some technical issues earlier, but we're going to go through ADP, help you out drafting running backs, and let's get started right now on Fantasy Football Today. Welcome, everybody, to part 2 of our running backs preview. Adam, Dave, and Jamie here. We are going to have a fun show. We're going to go through average draft position 1 through 1,000,000 and tell you who we like and tell you who we don't like. We're going to give you some fun facts about running backs. Very, very fun stuff. We're going to maybe look at our pick-by-pick series and see if we structured our rosters properly at the running back position. But, guys, let's wish Dalvin Cook a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Dalvin Cook. Dave, what would you like to wish Dalvin Cook for his birthday?
I wish him good health and 30 total touchdowns in 2022.
That would be nice. And Jamie, this is a scary fantasy birthday for Dalvin Cook. He just joined the 27 and older club, which includes Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler, Leonard Fournette, Aaron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, and James Conner. Fun fact, Jamie, it is not good to be 27 years old and play running back. Why is that?
I Azer statted it. It's after August 1st. You're fine if you turn 27 after August 1st. The last 6 years, there hasn't been a running back that's 27 or older finished as a top 5 PPR running back. So that's a scary group when you have Eckler and Henry and Cook, 3 guys who are probably going to be drafted in the top 5.
The last top 5 running back, 27 or older, was LaShawn McCoy. 2016, he was 28. Fun fact.
Wait. Do you have that stat for like top 10?
No.
How many running backs who are 27 or older finished top 10?
No.
Because some of those running backs you mentioned, I'd be okay if they finished top 10.
Sure.
I'd be okay if Fournette finished top 10.
But you know what?
But you wouldn't be okay if Eckler and Henry and Cook are.
I'd be a little disappointed
8, 9,
if they finished top 10, but I don't think it would be the end of my fantasy season.
I didn't get to talk about this on yesterday's show, but this is maybe a transition period at the running back position. The guys that we've relied on year after year are getting older, and we'll see what happens this year. But how many years can I run off a list like that of running backs who are 27 or older and are being drafted in the first 2 rounds? Not all of them are, but it's just kind of an older year for the running backs that we've relied on for a while. All right.
Well, hopefully you could do it next year too, the same group.
That'd be great. Fun fact.
That's the reason to sell in Dynasty, though.
Rashad Penny has 7 career games with 12 or more carries. He has scored in every one of those games at least once. He has rushed for 108 or more yards in 6 of those 7 games. He has averaged 7.7 yards per carry in those 7 games. 4 of them did come at the end of the 2021 season, but whenever this guy's gotten work, Rashad Penny has been awesome. Dave, I think you said you make him part of your late strategy at running back?
Mid-round strategy, not even you're not going to get him late. I think everybody recognizes the risk and the reward with Rashad Penny, but they like the reward, and I like adding him to my team. I put the Periscope up for him starting in round 7, and that goes double if I go 0 RB because I'll or hero RB because I need a running back just to help me get off to a good start in the season. Seattle's schedule, the first 4 weeks, I think it's the 4th best based on my projections. That includes 2 games, 1 against the Lions, 1 against the Falcons. Those are defenses I'm just not sure are going to be great at stopping the run. And Pete Carroll has made no secret about it. He loves Rashad Penny, compared him to Gale Sayers, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how many games he's going to have with 20 touches because Kenneth Walker's there. But from what I've been told, they both look good in camp.
Okay. Fun fact number 3. Alvin Kamara was on pace for more total yards than Austin Eckler. Don't have to do much with that, but the touchdowns were obviously a huge difference there.
I think there are some serious misconceptions on Eckler or on Kamara, rather. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
We'll get into that. I know you like him. Seems like
a
high guy. Fun fact number 4. Pro Football Focus has the Titans offensive line ranked 27th in their rankings that they released before training camp. They lost 2 good run blockers from last season's line. This had been a strength for Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans. It might be a weakness this year. Jamie, do you care about that offensive line for the Titans?
It's not great. You obviously don't want to have a bad offensive line. It's not going to really sway my opinion of Henry. He's a mid-first round pick in PPR. He's a higher pick in the first round in 9.5 PPR. You know what you're getting at this point. If he stays healthy, he'll be a great fantasy running back. If he gets hurt or the offensive line is that bad, then you just have to take your lumps. But if you're buying into Derrick Henry, you should be comfortable taking him as early as 6th overall.
And Henry has had, I believe, 18 to 19 catches 3 straight years, but he did that in 10 games last year. So maybe some hope that he can get closer to 25, something, maybe 30, who knows. But he was number 1 per game last year. Let's get another fun fact here. Ezekiel Elliott, in the last 12 games of the 2021 season, including 1 playoff game, Ezekiel Elliott, this is mind-blowing, had 1 carry of more than 13 yards. It was in week 18 against Eagles backups, and it was a 26-yard run. He was so bad in his last 12 games. Meanwhile, Tony Pollard has had as many or more 20-plus yard carries in each of the last 3 seasons as Zeke, despite having 465 fewer carries in that stretch. Dave, is Zeke done, or was he just playing hurt because he was a star in the first 5 games of the year?
I think it's a combination of the two. I think he's on his way to being done. If he can squeeze out 1 more good year, I think this is it. I think the Cowboys know it. But I do think he was affected to a degree by the knee injury. But what's his excuse for 2 years ago? He wasn't particularly explosive there 2 years ago. Pollard was better than Zeke.
Dak.
Oh, maybe that could be part of it too. So, yeah, you could line up excuses for him. Pollard is the more explosive player. And the reason why I think this matters is because the coaches want explosive players on the field. That there's a time and a place for a running back who can consistently gain 4 or 5 yards. But the coaches want a guy who can also not only do that, but get you some breakaway runs, and Pollard can do that. I would imagine that we'll see plenty of Pollard this year, to the tune maybe 10 touches per game. We've been talking about that for a long time. I think that does happen this year. But I think Zeke can still have a role in that offense, and I think they will continue to trust him when they need a touchdown. So short yardage situations, that's somebody that can help come through there. You can't rule out double-digit touchdowns for Zeke, but you might have to rule out 1,300 total yards.
30th overall for Zeke. How's that sound?
I'm drafting him a little bit later than that, and I'm okay with it.
4th round at the earliest.
All right, last fun fact here. Elijah Mitchell played 11 games last year. He had more games with 17 or more carries than Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson combined for in the last 5 seasons. They used him as a workhorse that you just did not see, but we do not expect that to continue in San Francisco this year for Elijah Mitchell. Quick ADP check on Elijah Mitchell. 49th overall. I never see him go that early in our draft, so I have a feeling you would not take Elijah Mitchell 49th overall, guys. What do you think about that for Elijah Mitchell, 49th?
I think based on everything you're hearing, first off, just in terms of we might not see that again, they love him. I mean, they are treating him as their lead back. This isn't an indication. This isn't a situation where, they drafted, Tyrion Davis-Price and Jeff Wilson's back and they're not going to use Mitchell. But I think clearly they're concerned about Mitchell, who had missed 6 games last year with a variety of injuries. And can he hold up over the course of a full season? So when you factor in Trey Lance and you factor in Deebo Samuel and then you factor in, additional bodies at the running back position, part of the reason why he had that work last year was because Mostert was not there and Wilson was not 100%, and they didn't trust Sermon, who also missed time. So Sermon looks better. Wilson's back. Addition of Davis-Price, Lance running, Deebo still there. 49 is too soon, but he's not somebody you should completely run away from. But if you get him at the right price, for me, it's round 6. I know I'm never going to get him around 6, but round 6 is where I would look for Mitchell.
Do you think his ADP is being gamed to be 49 since he's on the 40? No, probably not. All right, let's move on here. We got a lot to tell you about. By the way, here's an Azer stat for you.
Always crazy, but always fat.
If you include Deebo Samuel as a running back last year, the 49ers running backs have had 17 to 19 rushing touchdowns in each of the last 3 seasons. That is a massive number. Might go down this year with
I can't wait for you to Azer stat that to include Trey Lance.
Yeah, well, Deebo was doing it as a running back, but yes, I think Trey Lance only had 1 rushing touchdown last year, I believe. So,
running plays, design running plays. They scored 28 touchdowns last year.
Listen, we got some things to promote, including our draftathon. Hammering out the final date. It's going to be later this month, at the end of the month of August. Tell you all about that when we know everything. but it's an amazing event. It's going to be our 5th year doing it. We're going to raise a ton of money for St. Jude, and we need you to be a part of it. You can donate to St. Jude right now. We have an eBay store. We're going to have Thomas Schaefer, our new producer, Shafee T. We're going to have him put a link in the YouTube chat right now. I'm going to put a link in the episode description for you audio listeners. A little redundant. And you can click on it and bid on things like Dave and Jamie and Heath helping you with your draft with a pre-draft phone call. You can bid on a spot on this FFT podcast. You can bid for a spot in the podcast league. There are so many amazing things. Please be part of this draftathon. Help us raise money for St. Jude. We'd really, really appreciate it. Also, watch CBS Sports HQ on the CBS Sports app or on Paramount Plus. It is streaming 24/7. It is smart sports coverage, fantasy coverage, gambling, and live noon Eastern every Monday through Friday for the rest of the season, plus Sunday mornings during the season. Fantasy Football Today, hosted by Jamie. Check it out on CBS Sports HQ. All right, I did want to do this quickly. I don't want to dilly-dally too much, as I'm interested to get into the ADP and see who you guys like and who you don't like. But we did a pick-by-pick series, and we're going to display it here on YouTube. And let's go ahead. I'm going to add that to the stream in a moment. But I want to just go through the 6 teams that we drafted. We had 2 teams each in a 12-team PPR 3-receiver league. And yes, we talked about it yesterday. Most CBS leagues, and it seems like most leagues out there, are 2-receiver leagues, but that's okay. Let's see, how did we build our running backs? Did we do a good enough job? Just to give you a little bit more guidance for strategy before we get into ADP. So, Jamie, you had the first overall pick in a 12-team league. Again, full PPR. Actually, kind of interesting. You took 2 guys who aren't PPR standouts with your first and 24th pick. But talk about how you built your running backs, and if you're happy with it, go for it. Do you need me to read it to you? I'm sorry.
No, I have it.
Okay.
I'm very happy with it. I think the way that I approached this was Nick Chubb is a good value at the end of round 2, still, or beginning of round 3, however you want to, define it. I kind of had the expectation of I was going to lean heavy on receiver next, which I did for my next 4 picks. But to come away with Taylor, Chubb, Sanders, and Stevenson, knowing that I have 2 starters, don't have to play running back at the flex, which is kind of my intent most times. But I could if I want to with Sanders. Stevenson is somebody that I love, especially in this format. And then to still get Gordon as a 5th option, I'm thrilled with this group.
Okay, so Jamie went Taylor with the first pick, Nick Chubb, and then Michael Pittman at the turn. He went 4 straight wide receivers: Pittman, McLaurin, Michael Thomas, Treylon Burks. So he's strong at receiver, and his running backs are Taylor, Chubb, Miles Sanders, Stevenson, and Gordon.
I got a feeling he's not going to be able to get those same receivers again if we did another pick by pick.
No, but that's the evolution of how drafts go. It's why we tell people draft early in some cases and certainly wait in a lot of cases as well.
Yep. Timing is everything.
The second pick was mine. I took Christian McCaffrey, and then I went Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel. So I waited a little bit longer for my RB2. Jamie took his 24th overall. I took mine 47th overall, and that was J.K. Dobbins. I then took Devin Singletary, who, by the way, has led the Bills in rushing 3 straight years, and he's got great advanced metrics. On paper, he's a terrific player. They don't seem to like him as much. But McCaffrey, J.K. Dobbins, Devin Singletary, Alexander Madison, and Deontay Foreman. And I'm fine with it. I mean, look, you can come away with the draft being a little bit weak at running back, pick guys up off waivers. But when you have McCaffrey, I think it allows you to take more risks at your RB. It allows you to wait a little bit longer at RB2. So McCaffrey, Dobbins in round 4, Singletary in round 8, Madison in round 10, Deontay Foreman, who is the handcuff, we think, to McCaffrey late. Totally fine with that because I have really good wide receivers. I have Evans, Deebo Samuel, Chris Godwin, and I have Dalton Schultz, who I like at tight end.
Evans and Godwin.
Yeah, that was interesting, but Godwin in the 4th round, I couldn't pass.
It's also interesting to go into the season with 2 injury concerns at running back. I love it, but I know a lot of people are skittish by it, to take McCaffrey and Dobbins.
Totally fair. Dave, you had the 6th pick.
I did.
You took running backs with your first 2 picks.
Shocker.
No way.
Derrick Henry fell to 6. He's my number 2 overall player, even in full PPR. I am thrilled to get him. And then Fournette was there in round 2. I figured that there would be a drop off in tier at running back if I passed on him and took a running back in round 3, and I'm picking in the middle of the draft, so it's not like I can really try and manipulate my decisions based on other managers' needs. So I just went with back-to-back running backs, hope for a really good receiver to fall to me in round 3. I feel like I settled on T. Higgins. If we did it again, I bet that would be Michael Thomas. So I'd feel a little better if it were Michael Thomas instead of T. Higgins, but I did go receiver. I couldn't pass up Justin Herbert in round 5, and then another receiver in round 6, and then Hawkinson in round 7. I don't know if I would do that again either, but I basically passed on running back until round 8, and then I started to mix in a few more running backs. I didn't get as many as I normally do.
All right, but you have Henry, Fournette, Rashad Penny in round 8, and Tyler Algier in round 10. So you went 2 running backs, and then you loaded up at other positions, came back with Penny and Algier. Just 2 more teams we'll talk about here. Jamie with the 7th pick. I love this structure here.
Me too.
In a 3 receiver league especially, but I mean, I just love the running backs on this team. So you had the 7th pick and you got Najee Harris, and then what else?
Then, similar to the previous team in terms of loading up my receiver, I didn't take a running back in round 2, but Keenan Allen. So I had the choice of Fournette and Saquon Barkley. I took Keenan Allen over those 2. I would do that again. DJ Moore to me is a steal in round 3, middle of round 3. Love the upside of him. And then I love Travis Etienne. I would take him in round 3 to get him in round 4. I was thrilled with that. Took Mooney in round 5. So now I have my 3 receivers, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Darnell Mooney. And took A.J. Dillon in round 6. So then back to the receiver pool again, Devontae Smith, Christian Kirk. The 4th and 5th and 6th running backs on my team. 2 guys I think that can end up being flex options. One for sure, Nyheim Hines. I think he's going to be a startable flex in PPR with his role for the Colts. And then J.D. McKissick was the last pick, but I also took Khalil Herbert as a potential lottery ticket as well. So Harris and Etienne are my starters. Dillon is a potential flex, also potential starter as well. And then Hines, Herbert, and McKissick.
Yeah, and to be so strong at wide receiver, he did wait and take Matthew Stafford and Justin Fields kind of late. But to be so strong a wide receiver and be able to start Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, throw in A.J. Dillon as well as a possible flex, that's terrific. Dave, actually, on his other team, the 12th overall pick, you went with no running backs until the end of round 3. So you went with Stephon Diggs and Travis Kelce. And how did your team turn out waiting until rounds 3, 4, and 5 to take some running backs?
Mostly love this build. But first, a quick observation. James, if you think that Nyheim Hines is going to be a startable flex, and I know how you feel about Christian McCaffrey, I wonder if McCaffrey should be your number 1.
Oh, I struggle with it. I really do. A lot of it is age and offensive line. So I like the Colts offensive line slightly better than the Panthers. I like the quarterback situation better for the Colts.
Yeah.
I've said this time and time again. I wrote a story in the magazine about why Jonathan Taylor should be number 1, but it's every time I look at my rankings, it's a big dilemma.
I know we did fun facts earlier.
Nyheim Hines really isn't the concern for me for Taylor.
No, but if you're recommending Hines as a flex, then he's got to take away from somebody.
Yeah, he takes away from Alec Pierce and Paris Campbell. They don't have a really strong number 2 receiver.
That's true. So they definitely don't have that.
It also goes back to talking to Marcus Brady and Scotty Montgomery, their offensive coordinator and their running backs coach. And it was, hey, so Jonathan Taylor's going to do this. Yeah, but Nyheim Hines is going to do this. Yeah, but Jonathan Taylor, they just love him. They absolutely love what Nyheim Hines brings to them as a playmaker and as a pass catcher. And I think we're going to see a lot of them on the field together.
Does that mean that every time you ask them about Jonathan Taylor, they brought up Nyheim Hines?
No, I'm joking, but it was. They're very, very high on Nyheim Hines in a separate role. It's not about taking away from Taylor as a ball carrier. It's about what he can do as a pass catcher.
Remind me, Adam. Adam, remind me to give you a fun fact on McCaffrey, because there's something that I did that's debunked one of my strikes against him.
Okay.
So, and I try and be agnostic when it comes to players. Okay. This team, I started with Diggs and Kelce, and I'm picking at the end of round 1, beginning of round 2 every single time. And I purposely did it because I believed that I would like the running backs that were left to me when I would get to rounds 3 and 4. And that was the case. Ezekiel Elliott, Breece Hall. Fingers crossed that between the 2 of them, one will be top 5 or so, top 10, let's call it. And the other one will still be top 15. Those are my top 2 running backs. I pulled up on Josh Jacobs at the end of round 5 and went with Thielen. at the beginning of round 6. I feel a little sketchy about Jacobs as my third running back. If I had to do it again, I might have picked somebody else. Thielen was legitimately the best available receiver that was there, so I took him. But I felt a lot better about Thielen when I took DeAndre Hopkins in round 8. And so I've got Thielen to start the year. If he falls off or if he gets hurt, I just have to wait for Hopkins to come back. And I think Hopkins can be a usable number 2 fantasy receiver. I really like the idea of getting Hopkins in round 8, maybe even late round 7 at this point. I'm kind of turning the corner on him. Brady, my quarterback in round 7. Love that. Other running backs I took starting in round 9, James Cook, Brian Robinson, and Raheem Mostert. Other receivers I started taking in round 10, Sky Moore, Devontae Parker, and that's it. Those are the only 2 other receivers I took.
All right. What I want to highlight here with this team is if you have the 12th pick or a late pick and you don't take a running back with either of your first 2 picks, Dave went Diggs and Kelsey. He followed that up with Zeke and Breece Hall. Now, ADP would suggest that you cannot get Zeke there as he's going 30th, and that was the 36th pick, but you might be able to get Cam Akers. Dave would not do that. David Montgomery might fall there. Breece Hall will be there, according to ADP, at least as of now. You could take Travis Etienne and Breece Hall. You could take J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson. You could probably find 2 running backs that you like at the 3-4 turn if you start your team with 2 non-running backs, and that concludes our pick-by-pick analysis there. I hope that was helpful as you get into your drafts. We are going to talk about average draft position. First, we're going to talk about Peloton. You want world-class instructors and experts getting you in shape. You want thousands of live and on-demand classes to choose from. You want cycling and strength training, yoga and running. It is all there. And of course, you want to have fun when you're working out. And do you want Jamie to sell you on Peloton? Let's go. Go to onepeloton.com, onepeloton.com, and learn more. Jamie, why are you sitting down in a chair and not on your Peloton right now?
Well, I was going to say, while you guys were babbling about the salary cap draft last night, I was actually doing the salary cap draft while doing a Peloton ride. So I like to do the scenic rides just because it's easy to zone out. We have a desk on our 4-hour Peloton, so I highly recommend that for those of you who work at home and have the ability to not necessarily sit in front of a screen that people are looking at you. But if you get the chance to kind of just, take advantage of what Peloton has to offer for us in our house, myself and my wife. And even now we're starting to incorporate our kids using it as well. So they get an opportunity to take advantage of it also. But the classes are amazing. I like taking classes with Hannah Corbin, Emma Lovewell, Alex Toussaint. My wife loves Alex Toussaint, Andy Spear, 2 of her favorites. I think I said this in the last time we talked about this. We're on the Peloton app all the time. At night, we use the meditation classes to help our kids go to sleep. They love it. It's very relaxing. My wife takes the yoga classes. She's on a work trip right now. She took the armbands with her, so she does her workouts in the hotel. Easy to get away and certainly use take the opportunity to still get your exercises in while you're traveling. If you get to a hotel that has Peloton, take advantage of that as well. It's everywhere. It's hard to avoid being active as a Peloton member wherever you go, and it's just fantastic. So it's one of the best investments we've ever made. I'm staring at the bike right now. I don't want to talk to you guys anymore. I'm going to take a ride. So, we love Peloton. We're certainly a Peloton family, and I highly recommend it to anybody who gets the opportunity to use it.
All right, that's motivation that moves you anytime, anywhere. Try the Peloton bike or tread risk-free for 30 days. Learn more at onepeloton.com, onepeloton.com. New members only. Terms apply. All right, here we go. Average draft position. Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris. This is round 1. Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon. That's round 1. Taylor, McCaffrey, Eckler, Henry, Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon. Dave, what's your fun fact on Christian McCaffrey?
What were my 2 strikes against him? One is obvious, the injuries. The number 2 strike is that, the coaches might not use him as much because they want to keep him healthy and fit for the course of the season. If they use him as much, he won't be as good. That's actually wrong. Last year, there were 2 games where he played less than 75% of the snaps and finished. He had at least 24 PPR points in each. In his career, there have been 17 games where he's played between 50 and 75% of the snaps. Only 9 times did he have at least 15 PPR points, but 12 of those 17 games were in his rookie year when he was splitting, he was learning. I'm throwing those out. So small sample size, but 5 career games since his rookie year where he specifically played between 50 and 75% of the snaps. He had at least 22 PPR points and at least 15 non-PPR points in every game.
Wow.
So I can't say that Christian McCaffrey is going to be limited and only, air quotes, get you 16 or 17 PPR points per game. I can't say that anymore. His track record suggests that even when he's not playing 80% of the snaps, he's still very productive, or at least has the chance to be very productive.
Hey, Dave.
What's
But
up?
that's just an Azer stat.
It is. It is a little bit of an
Dude,
Azer
that
stat.
was, I love it. I'm blown away. That's great stuff. And everybody knows how great he is. Christian McCaffrey in non-PPR is the only running back, he and Todd Gurley, the only running backs to average more than 22 non-PPR fantasy points per game since LaDainian Tomlinson in 2006. So that's the thing that I want to say about McCaffrey is don't just think of him as completely dominant, against everyone in PPR. He was that way in non-PPR too, and obviously in half PPR. So is anybody taking him other than Heath? Is anybody taking him over Jonathan Taylor right now? And would you consider that in non or half PPR in addition to full PPR?
I'm not there yet, but like I said, I struggle with it. I really, really do.
Yeah.
It's almost like I want the second pick as opposed to the first pick. Let somebody else decide it for me.
Fair enough. Dave, where do you think you're going to end up with McCaffrey in your rankings?
He's currently 5th for me, and I know that that's out of line and crazy and whack, but I don't think he gets any higher than 4th. I got Jamie staying up late at night worrying about Taylor versus McCaffrey. Here I am worrying about McCaffrey versus Najee Harris. In PPR, that's something that I could potentially do. And it's just like the other thing that I think about is it's what we talked about on the show a couple of days ago. How many games does he have to play in order to justify being your first round pick? And I think the answer I came up with, I think everybody can have a different answer. My answer was 11 games. If you told me he's playing 11 games this year and not telling me when they were playing, I think I'd move him up considerably.
Okay. I think I'm ready to just take the plunge. He's definitely going to be 1 or 2 for me. If we look at
and the other part of it is, do you believe that there are enough running backs through the middle rounds of your fantasy draft where if McCaffrey were to go down, you would have somebody on your team ready to replace him and be at least at an RB2 level? And if you think the answer to that question is yeah, and the answer to that question really might be yeah this year, then that should embolden you even more to take McCaffrey.
Well, I think it's not just that, though. It's a matter of, our roster builds are typically different. You're going to go a little bit more into that running back pool in the middle of your draft. For me, for example, and it seems like most wide receiver people, I don't know the best way to describe it, most people go a little more receiver heavy. I'm not going to worry about starting a running back in my flex, but I'm going to take a lot more shots at late round guys. So you may not have the security of a Josh Jacobs or a Rashad Penny. I know you like, somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
To
the security of a Rashad Penny. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, guys that
I get it. I know you didn't
guys.
mean what I said, but you're right.
I'm just naming guys, that are in that group of running backs that you'll typically buy into. For me, like if I draft McCaffrey, like the way you built your team, Adam, with the pick by pick, you didn't necessarily say, okay, I have to have a McCaffrey replacement.
No, I just
and that's the way I would approach it too. Like I'm not drafting to draft a McCaffrey replacement. I like to have one, but it's not going to be my focus.
I don't draft McCaffrey and then get terrified and say, "Oh, I'm going to back him up."
No one will who takes him. Right? No one will who takes him with the top 2 pick.
Yeah, if you draft him, just draft him and do what you would ordinarily do with a stud running back. Don't try to compensate for a potential injury, except maybe taking Deontay Foreman, who could be, an RB2. He's not going to.
Well, I mean, look, maybe. For what it's worth, Mike Davis was an RB2 2 years ago when he stepped.
He was an RB1. He finished as a top 12 running back that year. It was insane.
Well, I mean, it was so top heavy though.
It was, but yeah. All right,
you could have just passed on McCaffrey and drafted Davis.
Good call, Dave. The rest of this group, Jonathan Taylor is pretty damn safe, and actually got off to a slow start. After the first 3 weeks, he was even better than his full season numbers, and he started playing a full snap share, basically, or full.
Well, it was weird because they were bad to start the season, and then their final 9 games, he had 1 game over 20 total touches in their first 8, and then their final 9 games, he had 9. Final 8, he had 7 of them, and they went 6-3 or whatever it was. Final 9 games. Sorry, first 8 games they were under one. First 8 games, 1 game over 20. Last 9 games, 8 over 20 total touches, and they were 6-3 over that stretch.
Weren't there rumors in week 3 that he had a knee injury? You
I don't
know,
recall.
I remember that I
Wait.
traded him in a league, and I
Oh, sorry. We are going to have a 5-hour show. You ready? Let's do the rest of round 1. Taylor, McCaffrey, Eckler, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon. Is there anyone that strikes you as particularly good or bad at their values?
No.
I mean, obviously Mixon. He's got the ability to be a top 5 guy.
they're all solid picks.
You know, the funny thing is, like,
Well,
if you're concerned about Henry, Mixon is basically a similar version of Henry. You know, you're not going to get a ton of receptions, but he'll catch the ball enough. He certainly has the ability to find the end zone at the same level. His offensive line is better. His offense is probably better. And he's cheaper.
I've been taking Mixon about 6th overall. I take him ahead of Najee Harris. I take him ahead of Dalvin Cook. I think Cook has more upside, but I'm just scared about all the injuries. That he's never played more than 14 games, I think, and played 13 last year. But I love Mixon because I just think he's super safe. Don't think he's nearly as good of a running back as Dalvin Cook, but
Or Henry.
yeah, or Henry, yeah. And I don't think he has the same touchdown upside as Henry, because Henry could get 20, I think, but Mixon could be, I don't know, 16, 17. Obviously, they both have touchdown upside, but this will be the best offensive line by far that Joe Mixon has ever run behind.
If they're healthy.
Yes, even if they're not, he has never had a good offensive line. All right, let's go to round 2 then. Oh, actually, real quick. So again, it's Taylor, McCaffrey, Eckler, Henry, Najee, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon in round 1. Most likely to be a bust.
Without injury?
injuries?
Without injury, yeah. You can
I'll say
that.
Mixon.
Without injury, Najee.
Okay. And give me a 5-second answer. Any chance you think Eckler loses his goal line role?
No.
Yes, there's a chance, but no.
Okay, a decent chance. Okay, no. All right, round 2 running backs, according to Fantasy Pros ADP. What I read might be slightly different than what you're seeing if you're on YouTube, but just slightly different. It is DeAndre Swift, Nick Chubb in full PPR, 17th overall. Alvin Kamara, 19th overall. Aaron Jones, 20th overall. And again, I mean, I think we all love that value, right? Aaron Jones, 20th.
Not as much as Alvin Kamara.
So
Yeah, Kamara and Jones, 19th and 20th. Is that something that should really shape your strategy to know if you have a middle of the first round pick that you can come back and get one of those guys potentially in the second round?
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more if your slot is 6, 7, 8. That's the middle. So sure. Yes.
I don't know if Kamara is going to stay there because as of now, we're not expecting him to be suspended this year, right?
Correct.
It does not appear that way.
So I'll just finish off real quick. The rest of round 2 is all of it is DeAndre Swift, Nick Chubb, Kamara, Aaron Jones, Javonte Williams, and Saquon Barkley and Leonard Fournette.
You're not getting those 2 guys in those spots most likely either.
Barkley and Fournette, 23 and
Yes.
24, basically. This is an interesting round. I mean, it's like, I would say, to sum it up, correct me if I'm wrong, you think Nick Chubb at 17 is too high, Javonte Williams at 20 is too high, but everyone else looks like a great value. It's Swift, Kamara, Aaron Jones, Barkley, Fournette, all of them should be round 2 picks.
Easily.
So that's a quick summary of it. Dave, you're really high on Kamara. You think people are sleeping on him a little bit?
I think everybody is still worried about a suspension happening. The fact that they delayed his case again on August 1st tells me that they're probably going to punt this thing to 2023. And there are a lot of people a lot of like law pundits who agree with that. So I'm putting it on the back burner. I'd be surprised if he's suspended this year. And then the other problem that people have with Kamara is that he didn't catch the ball a lot last year. But he had a 22.2% target share when Jameis Winston played with him last year. His prior career high in target share before that was 21.1% in 2020, which means that he was on pace last year for a career high target share. in New Orleans. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that he's going to have a ton, like 100 catches, because they would have to throw the ball more than they have in the past. But he's still getting throws from the quarterback. So he does have a shot to get you 60, 65 receptions. And he averaged 102.8 total yards per game last year. That was his third year in 5 seasons with a triple-digit average. I'm a little worried about what the wide receivers that they added and Michael Thomas coming back, what that means to Kamara. But he's their lead back. He had a career high in carries per game last year. He's going to score a ton of touchdowns. He's got an outside shot at 2,000 total yards. Totally happy taking him in late round 1, much less round 2.
And Jamie, you're a little lower. I mean, are you a little lower? I thought you were on Kamara.
No, following the news, the 3 guys that I struggle with are Jones, Swift, and Kamara. And I think just based on the fact that he's going to play the majority of the season going in, I put him ahead of those 2.
Oh, okay. So how do you guys rank them? Kamara, Jones, and Swift?
That way.
Kamara, Swift, Jones.
I was reading a Lions practice report from a few days ago. I think they were scrimmaging. Jamal Williams is still working with the ones.
That's okay. That's expected. I don't think DeAndre Swift is ever going to be a workhorse.
I don't know that we spend enough time on DeAndre Swift. I feel like I say that a lot. But
well, here's
really interesting.
Here he is in 10 seconds. Great pass catcher out of the backfield, working behind a great offensive line. Still question marks about how he is as a ball carrier and whether he can handle the wear and tear that running backs have. And I think the Lions are worried about that too. He's an injury risk.
Yeah, he did bulk up.
He's got unbelievable upside.
He bulked up to the point where he could maybe handle a little bit more work. Okay, Swift. So Swift, you guys are totally comfortable with him round 2. Again, we don't like Nick Chubb at 17, and we don't like Javonte Williams. We like Javonte in round 3, right?
Yes.
I would take him in round 3.
I think, I typically would lean the strategy Dave used in the pick by pick at 12. But if you want to go running back, you should have your choice of 2 of Kamara, Jones, and Swift. And it's a pretty good way to start too.
So let's play an ADP game. Would you rather have Diggs and Kelsey, and
yes.
then Breece Hall and Travis Etienne? Diggs, Kelsey, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne. Or would you rather have DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, and Michael Pittman and DJ Moore?
I would rather have Diggs, Kelsey, Pittman, and Moore.
Pittman, I don't think is going to end up staying where he is.
Or Moore.
Moore, I'm not. I think it's
Moore's gaining steam. People are getting excited.
In NFC, Michael Pittman is getting close to a round 2 pick.
He's round 2 for me.
All right, fine. Then what if it's forget it. I think too complicated. It's too complicated.
No, but that could be Michael Thomas and
could be Kyle Pitts.
Thomas
could be
and Pitts. Mike Williams.
Well, I like the tight end comparison, right? So it's Diggs, Kelsey, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne,
yeah,
or Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Kyle Pitts, and Michael Thomas.
I think both are awesome.
Both are good, but I'm taking the Diggs Kelsey.
Okay.
I'm digging the Diggs Kelsey.
All right. Let's take a look at real quick. When would you take Nick Chubb, who each of the last 3 seasons has finished as a top 12 running back per game in full PPR, even without a lot of catches? And there are going to be more than 12 running backs taken in the first 2 rounds. I'm guessing it'll be about 15 or so.
That's on a per game basis, Adam?
On a per game basis, he has been top 12 every single year. When would you take Nick Chubb? Jamie took him 24th overall in that pick by pick. What do you guys think, Nick Chubb?
That's the area, the 2-3 turn.
Okay. Let's take a look at round 3 in average draft position. After a quick break on Fantasy Football Today, we will be right back. And we're back looking at ADP. Round 3 in a 12-team league. So this is going to be picks 25 through 36. Round 2 ended with Barkley and Fournette. Who do you like better, by the way, Barkley or Fournette? I should ask.
Barkley.
Fournette.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to shortchange some players because we just have to. I'm sorry. We should talk more about Saquon Barkley. We got like 1,000 more shows before the season starts. But basically, where are you comfortable taking Barkley?
I'm getting closer to putting Barkley to the aforementioned trio of Kamara, Jones, and Swift.
He's right there for me, but Fournette's a step ahead of him. I'll take the running back in Tampa Bay over the running back with the Giants. There have been bad reports about this Giants offense over the last week, excluding Barkley.
So bad. Would you take Keenan Allen?
Tyrod was getting first-team reps.
Keenan Allen or Barkley or Fournette?
Allen.
Fournette. Barkley. Keenan Allen.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I go Barkley. I go back and forth. I'll say Allen for now.
And maybe it depends on who you took in round 1, right?
Yes.
How about Barkley, Fournette, Mark Andrews?
Andrews is down for me.
Barkley, Fournette, Andrews.
And now we're going to take a look at round 3. And here are the round 3 running backs according to Fantasy Pros as of August 10th. It is Ezekiel Elliott, 30th, James Conner, David Montgomery, and Cam Akers, who Dave has 70th overall, and he's going 36th. One thing I don't know is I don't know the date range, so I don't know how much of the Cam Akers ADP is after the quote from Sean McVay last week about having 2 starting running backs. But the 4 running backs in this range are Zeke, Conner, Montgomery, and Akers. And this is why people gravitate to wide receiver in round 3. What do you think, Dave, of this group of Zeke, Conner, Montgomery, and Akers?
They're guys with warts, but they're still acceptable RB2s. And if you decide to go with pass catchers with your first 2 picks, I think they're acceptable to have in your starting lineup. And that's really the bottom line. You don't want to look at it and say, all right, Zeke's my RB1, because you're not going to feel great about that. But Zeke is a starter on my fantasy team. That's acceptable. James Conner is a starter on my fantasy team. Cam Akers is a starter on my fantasy team. You can probably feel okay about that, knowing that you passed up the chance at getting those other running backs early on, and you're getting them at a price point that you feel a little bit better about. Couple things. Josina Anderson interviewed Cliff Kingsbury at training camp. We had the clip on CBS Sports HQ, and he talked about finding another running back to use in a rotation with James Conner like he had last year with Chase Edmonds and James Conner. So that makes me a little nervous. I still think Conner's going to lead and get all the high-value touches. So whoever they get might catch 40 passes. That might be where they take away some work from Conner, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. But it is something that Kingsbury is talking about, is finding another running back from the guys that he has. It sounds like Benjamin might be in the lead in that role right now. But that could hurt Conner from being top 5 in running back touches on a per game basis over the course of the season. And we talked about Zeke and we talked about David Montgomery. Don't worry about the special team stuff. Montgomery asked to be a part of the special teams practice. It's not like the coaches said, you stink now, go play special teams. Herbert will take some work away from him. I still expect Montgomery to be the main guy. And I noticed that there's starting to be more video coming out of Cam Akers doing things at camp, and he doesn't look terrible. So I'm probably going to have to rethink my position on completely punting on Akers. I don't know if I'll ever get to a point where I'm taking him in round 3, but I told you I'd keep an eye out for this all preseason.
Sure. Zeke, Conner, Montgomery, Akers. How do you all rank them? How do you both?
You just did.
Conner, Montgomery, Akers, Zeke.
Wow. So you're really worried about Zeke, it seems, Jamie.
Yeah, I don't trust what I saw last year. I trust that Tony Pollard will have a bigger role. I don't think this is as good an offensive line as he's had in the past, based on some of the losses that they've had this offseason. And so Zeke is just not somebody that I'm taking. I'm certainly not taking him round 3. So this is all like a jumbled group. Conner to me is ahead of them. So Conner to me is closer to the other guys in the round 2 range. But this group is, if you're taking them in round 3, I think you're making a mistake.
James Conner was the second best running back in fantasy in the games that Chase Edmonds missed. So Dave just said they're going to work someone else in. Big question I would have is that going to be passing downs or running downs, or just, random downs throughout?
How did they use Chase last year? I think that's the blueprint.
Different points in the season, though.
But Yeah,
how they started the season.
but James Conner was the second or third best pass blocking running back in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. And he was very efficient catching the ball. So if they say, hey, we're going to split reps, but that doesn't mean that he's going to be off the field on passing downs, because he had like 7 catches in 9 games or 9 catches in 7 games with Chase Edmonds, whatever it was, completely uninvolved. But if they say, all right, he's going to have a bigger role in the passing game, that's going to really help him. But we just don't know. Hopefully we can find out a little bit.
I think that's the role that's in jeopardy with Connor.
Yeah. All right.
Not anything else. Still 15 touches a game, still goal line work, still feeding him when they've got a lead in a game.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, David Montgomery, do you think he's just kind of a safe RB2, or do you think he has big upside?
Safe RB2.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to round 4. Round 4 after Cam Akers is at 36th overall. Round 4 is Antonio Gibson, Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, and Elijah Mitchell's at the turn. But we'll just stick with Gibson, Jacobs, and Etienne. I know, Jamie, you have Etienne as a round. You take him in round 3.
And Breece Hall.
Breece Hall is in round 5. So round 5 is a pretty exciting round for running backs. I guess there aren't too many of them, but all right, you know what? Why don't we compare round 4 and 5? Because obviously these guys could go anywhere, right? Between rounds 3 and 6 wouldn't surprise you. But the 6 or 7 running backs we're talking about from rounds 4 through 5 are Jacobs, Etienne. Sorry, I missed one. Gibson, Jacobs, Etienne, Elijah Mitchell, Dobbins, Breece Hall. That's 6 running backs. Jamie, who are the 2 best in that group? Again, it's Gibson, Jacobs, Etienne, Elijah Mitchell, Breece Hall, and J.K. Dobbins.
For me, it's Etienne and Hall. I think Etienne will have his role solidified with or without Robinson being ready for the start of the season, which he's trending clearly in the direction of being there. But I think he's just going to be explosive as a pass catcher, and I think he'll do enough as a ball carrier to still be one of the breakout players of the season. And Hall, I think, is going to dominate touches for the Jets. Michael Carter will have his role, but it will be completely reduced. And so I don't like the Becton injury. I don't like the, talk about offense that's struggling. Zach Wilson not exactly having a great camp.
No.
But I think Breece Hall is going to make enough plays to be successful enough. I would prefer these guys in round 4. They're back-end round 3 picks just based on my rankings. I would probably take receivers over them. But just in terms of where their upside is, I think their upside, like if you tell me it's Breece Hall and Travis Etienne versus Antonio Gibson and Josh Jacobs, I'll take the young guys all day long.
Me too. And I think the Jets might get to a point where, first of all, I think their offensive line is still okay without Mekhi Becton. It would be better if Becton were healthy. That guy is a man and a half. But I think they knew that he could potentially miss time. And I think they're moderately prepared for that. The interior of their O-line should still be pretty good. And if Wilson struggles, they might lean on their running backs even more. And so even if there is a situation where Breece Hall is losing more work than we'd like to Michael Carter, they might be seeing enough work from game to game that makes up for that. The volume could be in their favor. I like Breece Hall in that 3-4 turn range for sure.
When you look at quality of offense and the positions that are affected, wide receiver is affected by quality of offense a lot more than running back is. And, I've made the comparison that Breece Hall and Javonte Williams were drafted 30. One was 35th, one was 36th or something like that, obviously in different years. They both were drafted by teams that finished 28th in scoring, the year that before they drafted them. And it's not like Denver was so good last year. They were 23rd in scoring. If Javonte Williams had gotten a featured role, he could have been a top 12, he could have been a top 5 running back maybe. I mean, who knows? It's not like the Steelers were so good last year. They were 21st in scoring. And Najee Harris was RB8, I think, per game, but he's top 5 overall. Touches are more important than offense, for running back, so much more important. The question obviously is if and when that will happen for Breece Hall. But I am starting to get fired up for Breece Hall. I just think he is a completely different beast than Michael Carter. Michael Carter has always been a part-time player. Breece Hall is a true workhorse. He has been that in college. His comp coming out was Jonathan Taylor. I think he's really good. If he had gone to a better situation, people could justify him as a first-round pick in fantasy, I think. And when you look at the RB dead zone, players that often exceed, or even not even the RB dead zone, players that often exceed expectations are rookies, rookie running backs. They're They're just good. You might have to wait, but I mean, I don't know, guys. I'm just getting really fired up for Breece Hall. I want to take Breece Hall. In round 5, it is a freaking no-brainer.
Easy.
Yeah. I hope I can get him there. But round 4, I'd be very, very tempted as well. So just wanted to give that impassioned case for Breece Hall. So do you think Josh Jacobs and Antonio Gibson are going to be
Headaches?
Yeah. Are they going to be what's more likely? They are not getting high value touches and they kind of are just busts and replaceable, or they are established veteran running backs who have had high fantasy finishes and are going to exceed our expectations, and we're too worried about it right now.
The latter for Jacobs, the former for Gibson.
I'd say the opposite. I think the latter for Gibson and the former for Jacobs.
It could go either way.
Really could. Balls. And I think it's going to come down to in-season performance for both. If Gibson gets his act together, yes, he's going to lose. I think the deal is done. He's not going to regain passing downs work. I think at best he's in a running downs role. You know, we talked about a little bit like James Conner. I don't think it'll be exactly as, glorified as James Conner's could be, but could still be in the neighborhood of 15 touches per game. He caught enough passes on first and second downs to not be totally useless, and he scored a lot of touchdowns. And if he's good and if he's right, I don't care how good Brian Robinson looks in practice. Antonio Gibson's going to have that job. This coaching staff won't lean on a rookie at the goal line over and over again unless Gibson stinks. And if he stinks, then he might not even play. And the same thing for Jacobs. I think Jacobs could have a very quick hook in Las Vegas. We've seen that from Josh McDaniels running backs in the past. But he wasn't running against starters in his Hall of Fame game. He looked like he was running with purpose, and he knew that the fire on his seat was pretty hot. If he keeps that up all season long, he's going to matter. He'll be a number 2 fantasy running back. If not, you're going to see a lot of Zamir White and a lot of Kenyon Drake and a lot of Amir Abdullah. And you're not going to want a lot of the Raiders running backs on your fantasy team.
I want to point out about Gibson. It wasn't a James Conner situation where Conner averaged about 1 catch per game when Chase Edmonds played. When J.D. McKissick played, you still had a guy who was on pace for about 40 catches. So Gibson was still catching some passes, but he was much, much better when McKissick did not play. All right, so let's go to round 6. Tell me if you would take any of these guys over Jacobs and Gibson as we go to round 6, which is pick 61 through 72. And the running backs there are Clyde Edwards-Helaire, A.J. Dillon, and Damian Harris, Miles Sanders, and that is it. 4 running backs: Clyde, A.J. Dillon, Damian Harris, and Miles Sanders. Jamie, would you take any of them over Josh Jacobs or Antonio Gibson?
Dillon for sure. I think just looking at what his potential role could be I think he'd be the leading rusher for the Packers. Wouldn't surprise me, just in terms of his rushing yards and potentially rushing touchdowns. I think Aaron Jones will have more total yards and certainly be a significant factor in the passing game while still getting enough of a role in the run game. But Dillon, to me, has got tremendous upside. And then you have the lottery ticket appeal to him, too. So if something happens to Aaron Jones, oh, my goodness, he could be just an absolute monster. So he's my favorite of that group. And I think, if you're just looking for, if you're concerned about Gibson, you're concerned about Jacob, this is an easy pivot. So he'd be my favorite. But I got to run, so got to go bye. I'll see you later.
All right. Jamie's going to hop off here. Dave and I will finish the show. All right. I'll give a spicy take here. So we look at these 4 running backs in round 6 in a 12-team league. They're going between 65th overall and 70th overall, basically. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, A.J. Dillon, Damian Harris, Miles Sanders. I hate 3 of these 4 values, Dave. I love A.J. Dillon. Love it.
Same.
I will not take Clyde, Harris, or Sanders in round 6. No. Sanders would be second for me. How do you see this group?
No, I think we've hit the RB dead zone for 2022. And in the past, it was 2 rounds higher than where it is now. And this is where I think if the news continues to be bad for Gibson and Jacobs, this is where they're going to end up. This isn't where Elijah Mitchell should end up. I think he should be slightly ahead of this group. And I think Dillon shouldn't be in this group. I think he should also be slightly ahead of this group. But A lot of running backs that are probably going to be, like I said with Gibson Jacobs, it's going to be based on in-season performance. Nick Sirianni can speak until he's blue in the face about how Miles Sanders is his number one guy, but if he A, gets hurt, B, struggles, and C, really struggles in the passing game, and I don't even know if they're going to let him get anywhere near the passing game, I can't see him being a running back with lots of high-value touches. That's going to be a problem. Damian Harris, same thing. And I mean, he's in New England. That offense looks like a wreck right now in practice. There's definitely a chance that he could get benched at a moment's notice. He's going to need to continue scoring touchdowns. Round 6 is not the right time to take him, especially in full PPR. You want to talk about a running back who's not going to catch a lot of passes. It's Damian Harris. Anybody else? Edwards-Helaire, there might be some rebound potential for Edwards-Helaire where you'll feel okay taking him in round 6. But I feel like there's a quick hook there too. And I feel like the Chiefs are setting themselves up to continue leaning on Mahomes, which is obvious, but also using like 3 running backs a week. That just makes Edwards-Helaire tough to trust.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the graphic on YouTube, the next running back off the board is 10 picks later after Miles Sanders. So this round 6 was Clyde, Dillon, Damian Harris, Miles Sanders. 10 picks later is Kareem Hunt, and then right after that is Devin Singletary. I guess I've gotten a little bit of cold feet on Singletary just because the reports haven't been great.
Yeah,
more so that Zach Moss and James Cook are having roles. But I do like Kareem Hunt a ton at 79th or 80th overall. He is a bit of a fallback option for me. Not even a fallback. He's part of my running back strategy, Dave. I love Kareem Hunt as a number 3 or 4, depending on how I build my team. In a 3-receiver league, he could be my number 3 running back, and I'm just loading up at receiver. In a 2-receiver league, if Kareem Hunt's my number 4 running back, that's great. If he's my number 3, I'm fine with that. But I just think that he's gonna have a guaranteed role, and he'll have enough catches to be relevant, and he's really good. So I like him. I think he's an important player for me. Kareem Hunt.
He can be a starter. His value could go in so many directions over the next 2 weeks because what if the Browns do trade him?
Yeah.
Or what if the Browns, I'm a little, I was going to say that Dearness Johnson worries me a little bit, but I mean, we'll see. But he's been a usable number 2 fantasy running back with potential to be a top 5 running back when Nick Chubb is out. I think that he's okay to draft in this range. And there will be some people that look at him and they'll weigh him against Miles Sanders and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and a couple other names that we gave. And they'll say, give me Hunt.
Okay. Another look at average draft position now after round 6 in the Kareem Hunt range. A lot of wide receivers coming off the board here, by the way. Guys like Darnell Mooney, Adam Thielen, Allen Robinson, DeAndre Hopkins. So still a great area to grab wide receivers if you buy this ADP. Gabriel Davis. Oh, Cordarrelle Patterson I skipped. So Kareem Hunt, Cordarrelle Patterson, Devin Singletary. We're in round 7 now. Rashad Penny, Tony Pollard. That's 5 running backs going toward the end of round 7. And Kareem Hunt, Cordarrelle Patterson, Devin Singletary, Rashad Penny, and Tony Pollard. Who's your favorite in that group of 5?
It's Penny. We talked about this already. Just the fact that he can give your team a jump start at the beginning of the season and potentially carry it till his wheels come off. He's worth this type of a pick.
Okay. Do you like this group? Do you want to draft this group of Kareem Hunt, Cordarrelle Patterson, Devin Singletary, Rashad Penny, Tony Pollard?
Hunt, yes. Penny, yes. Edmonds, sorta. Singletary, Pollard, Patterson are all kind of in that mix of, oh, okay, those dudes play running back. They might get me some decent points from week to week. At least in the case of Pollard, there's some pretty, I shouldn't say just with Pollard, but in Pollard's case, there's some pretty huge upside. I think it's less of a case for Patterson at this point. And I'm not as excited about those guys. Singletary, I was very excited about a few months ago, even after they took James Cook. But now I feel like with Cook there, Isaiah McKenzie's starting to step up. Zach Moss is going to have a role. They can continue to mitigate the run game in Buffalo, and that would hurt Devin Singletary.
And we know what Tony Pollard is without Zeke. I mean, without Zeke, Tony Pollard's going to be incredible. And, Zeke looks like he's fading a little bit late in his career. So it's enticing. But with Zeke, he wasn't really that usable. But maybe he'll catch more passes this year using
I think they have to.
Slot. Do you think Tony Pollard is going to have standalone value at 83rd overall as running back 33?
No, I think that's too soon for the type of return he'll give. He was almost 10 PPR points per game overall last year. I don't think he might be around there this year if Zeke stays healthy all year.
All right, Chase Edmonds is RB 34. He's the only running back going around 8. Chase Edmonds, RB 34. What kind of upside do you think Chase Edmonds has?
We saw Chase average 11 PPR points per game last year in Arizona. Obviously, there's a skill set to his game that the Dolphins really liked. They prioritized him to get him on the team. I don't view him as a guy who can be a complete back, a full workhorse back. There have been games here and there where he has done that, and he's done really well. He's been productive. I don't think he can hold up. I think he's a passing downs back. I think he's an air back. I think the Dolphins would be wise to use him that way, and I think they're gonna. That's part of the case in my mind that Miami becomes a pass-heavy team. But a lot of those passes are short passes where they're going to ask their pass catchers to make a play after the catch. Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, that's going to happen. I think that can happen with Chase Edmonds too. So I'm okay with him in round 8. I like him better as a PPR flex or a low-end RB2.
Would you take Edmonds or Kareem Hunt?
I would take Kareem Hunt.
Edmonds or Singletary?
I'm going to look at my rankings just to make sure that this backs it up. I have Edmonds over Singletary they are back-to-back.
9 games in Edmonds' career with double-digit carries. 6 of them came last season. If you look at his per-game average for those 9 games, again, 9 games with double-digit carries, and usually it's, in the 11 to 12 range, maybe sometimes 15, 16, but we're not talking about a ton of carries. He's been really good. He's produced like a top 8 running back. His points per game in those 9 games with double-digit carries, just based on last year's scoring, would have made him RB8. One negative for Chase Edmonds, Tua Tagovailoa in 2 seasons so far has not thrown to his running backs much. Running backs had a pretty low target share in 2020. They had a 15.4% target share with Tua compared to 21.4% with Fitzpatrick. That was in 2020, and the trend continued in 2021. We are going to take a break here on Fantasy Football Today just to give you a quick 30-second Paramount Plus promo. Come back and talk about the running backs going after pick 100.
We found your daughter. She's alive.
Mister? It's Mommy. 4 years is a long time. Welcome home.
I think something's going on with Esther.
She seemed different.
Since she got back, there's constant lying. There's outbursts of anger.
Orphan First Kill, rated R, streaming August 19th on Paramount Plus.
Let's take a look at pick 100 and later in running back average draft position. And it starts with number 100 overall, Melvin Gordon. And, he had a pretty damn big role last year. He had 50% of the carries, and he missed the game. Melvin Gordon, Ken Walker, James Robinson, Michael Carter. That's not bad for a pick, for round 9. Melvin Gordon, Ken Walker, James Robinson, Michael Carter. Which one of those 4 or how many of them are you interested in drafting?
I'm interested in a lot of those names.
Yeah.
I think this is the right spot to start jumping back into running backs. Walker's the one I have ranked the highest, but James Robinson is right on his tail. And I continue to be interested in Robinson at this type of a value. We're talking round 9 on draft day. There's a chance he could give a return of a round 6 pick. He can give a return of a round 2 pick if things break right for him. He does look okay. He does look he looks spry. I can't say he looks explosive based on the videos that we've seen. And he has yet to take part in 11-on-11 team drills, I believe, certainly not padded. But he's worked with the offense against air. He looks like he's ramping up. Wouldn't be surprised if he's the first running back on the field week 1 for the Jaguars.
Okay, that's James Robinson we're talking about here.
Actually, I would be surprised if he were the only running back on the field week 1 for the Jaguars. They should both be on the field pretty much every running down. ETN shouldn't come off the field.
Okay, let's talk about I'm actually on the clock right now, Dave. So I'm making a draft pick here.
Oh yeah, who are you looking at? Let's
Can
talk
I
it out.
can I take Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon on the same team?
Let me give you a stat on that.
He's pick 64.
Is there a clock with it?
I have 3 hours and 21 minutes. I'm going to take
Okay,
AJ Dillon and move
so
it
you can
along.
give me 5 seconds to find my stat. When they were playing together last year, 6 games, Jones was averaging 15 PPR points per game. Dillon was averaging 12.3 PPR points per game. They are both. I've got Dillon ranked high enough where he's certainly startable along with Aaron Jones. I think most weeks one of them will be very good and one won't be. There will be a couple of weeks where they're both good. I don't think there will be many weeks where they both stink. So
Yeah,
I'm okay with that. I'm signing off.
Thank you. All right, so let's talk about more running backs. Ramondre Stevenson is next here. And by the way, I took AJ Dillon over Josh Jacobs, so we're putting our money where our mouth is here. Ramondre Stevenson and James Cook
Like
and
them
Alexander Madison,
Like him too.
Ronald Jones,
We finally found one that I don't like.
Darrell Henderson,
Potential.
Naeem Hines.
Flexibility.
You don't like him as much as Jamie does. But
No. Every year there's hype around Naeem Hines, and every year he's not changing the face of fantasy football.
Right. He's going to have to catch some touchdowns because he might not rush for more than 1 or 2. So Ramondre Stevenson, James Cook. Who would you take if you were on the clock? Or would it depend on who you already have on your team? I'll let you go soon. I know you have to run. Ramondre Stevenson, James Cook.
Yeah. You mentioned Madison. You mentioned Melvin Gordon, Darrell Henderson.
Well, that was earlier Melvin Gordon. Ronald Jones, Darrell Henderson, Naeem Hines.
Madison would be top of mind if I had Dalvin Cook, or if I thought Dalvin Cook was going to have an absolutely horrid year. And I don't know why anybody would think that, but who knows? Madison would be top of the mind there. But if it's in a vacuum / blanket, I like the upside with James Cook, especially in PPR. It would be a different answer in non or half PPR. But I think they're going to find a way to get the ball in his hands through the air at least 4 times per game. And there will be some games where he just has some breakaway plays. He's looked good in practice. The reports say it. The video says it. I'm interested. I'm sure he's going to get playing time in the preseason. It'll be fun to watch him play then. And there's upside for him. If Devin Singletary struggles, if they don't like Devin Singletary, or if the coaching staff, when I say they, if the coaching staff begins to build confidence that James Cook could handle a larger workload, I mean, he could follow in the footsteps of Alvin Kamara. It's the same type of argument that Jamie would make for Travis Etienne, is that there's a path there for these running backs who are primarily airbacks, great speed, great hands, but also evidence of them running well in college between the tackles and being a traditional running back. If the coaches grant them that opportunity, then they're off to being top 12 fantasy players, especially somebody like Cook in this Buffalo offense that's been so score happy for the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, and I would say James White's not the worst player to draft and just put in an IR spot. James White,
not now. You can wait another 2 rounds.
Sure.
Round 12.
I was just in the airback conversation. James White had 12 catches in 2 games last year, and then he got hurt in week 3 almost immediately. But he's just so good at that. All right, Dave, we'll wrap this discussion up. Let's take a look at some noteworthy rookies because we haven't talked about too many. We have obviously talked about Breece Hall. Ken Walker comes off the board about 100th overall, but still,
you have to be patient with Walker. If you draft Walker, do not expect him to be a great fantasy option in September.
Still haven't gotten to Damian Pierce or Tyler Algier, Rashad White, guys like that. So what about Damian Pierce and Tyler Algier, guys that have the chance to be the starting running back for their teams? Pierce for Houston, Algier for Atlanta pretty early. Who do you like better?
I like Pierce better. And I spent some time studying these guys and thinking about these guys, and I landed on Pierce as the better one. I don't love either one because I just don't think they're in the best offenses I don't think they'll be conducive for huge fantasy points. But I think Pierce has a better chance to get more work than Algier does. I bet Algier ends up splitting all year. He's a big dude. He might remind Arthur Smith of Derrick Henry. I'm going to get a look at him on Friday in the preseason game against the Lions. Might end up writing a story about Tyler Algier and what his future looks like this year. But Pierce dazzled his coaches without pads, and then he put the pads on, and he was even better. So there's a real chance that he's the top running back in Houston, but he's the top running back in Houston.
Yeah.
So look,
he's not going to
taking him this late. I'm not going to fault you for it. And even in the salary cap draft we did, I nominated him. I tried to get him on my roster at a cheap price. I nominated him for $4, thinking, all right, not even Heath, who really likes Dameon Pierce, is going to outbid me to get him, and I'll get him for $4. Marcus Grant was in our mock from NFL.com. He took him for $5. I didn't go $6.
Okay. And then any other noteworthy handcuffs or rookies? I take Isaiah Spiller a lot, but it's really
I'm falling out of love with that.
Yeah, as of a few days ago, I mean, he was working behind Larry Roundtree and Josh Kelly, so that might be wishful thinking.
Sure, right. And then by November, he might be the number 2 running back for the Chargers, but it might not mean anything because Austin Eckler's still doing his thing. I don't think you've mentioned Kenneth Gainwell's name, and right now he's dealing with an injury. But earlier this offseason, I was way bullish on him. I've cooled off, but I still think he's worth a pick once you get to round 10. I think Michael Carter is worth a pick when you get to round 10. J.D. McKissick has been double-digit PPR points per game each of the last 2 seasons. I think he's worth a pick when you get to round 10. I just wouldn't expect him to be anything more than a spot starter. If you're betting against Antonio Gibson, you should be interested in Brian Robinson. If you're betting against Josh Jacobs, you should be getting Zamir White. If you're against Miles Sanders, you should be getting Gainwell. And we have to mention Isaiah Pacheco and the fact that he's starting to get some work with the ones in Kansas City. It's fun to think about. He might be worth $1 in a salary cap draft. He's definitely worth your last pick, but I think he's going to end up being a kick returner who will have occasional plays on offense, unless the other running backs in Kansas City all stink, and Pacheco proves that he's better than he was at Rutgers.
The problem I have with guys like Pacheco or Rashad White or Zamir White, Isaiah Spiller, if the starting running back gets hurt, they're going to be in a committee. That's my guess anyway. So if you're evaluating which handcuffs could actually get big roles and are being drafted late, Darrell Henderson is an easy one.
Yep.
Mark Ingram,
but he's going earlier than this.
He's going earlier, but he's still going pretty late. He's still going after pick 100.
Barely, yeah.
Mark Ingram could be one. Maybe.
I don't know. If we're poo-pooing 27-year-old running backs, we probably shouldn't be excited about 31.
But he did pretty well last year.
Then he got banged up.
Okay, but I'm just saying, as a handcuff, he's got, I think, more potential to have a big role.
I think Khalil Herbert is the name that
Khalil Herbert. Dang, I was looking at him and I forgot to say it. Khalil Herbert.
That's the one.
Absolutely, he's going to have.
And Rashad White, if he earns that role in Tampa, is the one too. But that's an if.
Rashad White, if Fournette gets hurt, between Rashad White and Giovanni Bernard,
and Keyshawn
Vaughn, it's probably a combination.
But I bet White wins out eventually. And if I'm in a deeper league and I've got Fournette, I'll take White very late.
All right,
but I'm not excited to draft him early on.
Thanks for doing it.
We didn't even mention Ty Davis-Price. We didn't mention Sony Michel.
I'm sorry. We
didn't mention drafting Gus Edwards with your last pick and then just stashing him on your IR.
Yeah, you could do that.
Didn't mention Benny Snell, Trey Sermon.
Handcuff there.
Trey Sermon might be the third down back for the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't mention Tyrion Davis-Price, because Jeff Wilson might be a better option than him. That's a jumbled mess if Mitchell gets hurt.
We didn't mention Craig Reynolds.
All right,
we're out. Avery Williams. We didn't mention Miles Azer.
Hassan Haskins.
Hassan Haskins is another deep league handcuff for Derrick Henry.
We're out of here, everybody. Thank you so much. It's been a long show. We appreciate you hanging with us. We will talk to you tomorrow.
I gotta go get dressed.
Wide receivers on Fantasy Football.